Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios here in Cumming, Georgia, it's time for Stewarding Family Wealth. And now, here's your host.
Good morning, folks. This is Randy Brunson with Centurion Advisory Group, and welcome back to the second episode with our dear friends Garrett Erath and Brad Scarberry of Exodus 36 Creations. Guys, welcome back to the studio. We're glad you're here.
Thanks, Randy.
Yep, excited to be here.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing those insights. The move-in day as freshmen at Truett McConnell College.
That's a lot of insights. Yep, a lot of. I hope people wrote it down. It's helpful. Yeah.
I'm sure they are sitting at the house.
Yep.
You know, of course, they're probably driving the car, dictating this into their
right.
note. Or how does it? Can you dictate to a note app or something? Is that
You could, but you'd have to pause the episode, which would be tough. I mean, I know you want to stay engaged. So.
I wouldn't condone texting and driving.
That's
There's
true.
only a few methods out there.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, this whole. If I master technology the way some people have, I'm serious. They would call me a high tech redneck. But anyhow, I want to talk more about Exodus 36, what you guys do, and particularly, I remember part of the story. Garrett, is fill in the blanks for me. But several years ago, you were working for someone else in construction, doing renovation and home remodeling, some of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And you went through this transition where you worked for them some, and then you were doing some of your own jobs. And so was that the genesis of Exodus 36?
So when I jumped into it full time, it was not a sustainable business. You know, this was just some ideas that we had, and my wife and I were living on faith and prayer and Brad's good sales tactics. So, for about a year, I was doing a lot of home repairs and things like that, and I met with a business mentor, a former boss of mine, and I was like, hey, I'm at a weird spot where I can't sell jobs and go do jobs as much as I need to and still make money. I'm thinking about maybe hiring somebody. Do you have any advice? And he said, let me connect you to another guy who does remodeling. Why don't you go learn from him and see what he has to say? So I sat down with this guy for breakfast, and he was like, well, you could come work with me, and that'd be easy. It'd solve both of our problems. So I said, okay, I'd love to work 2 days a week for you for a short period of time to learn from you and hopefully help you in your transition period. So I worked for him for probably a little over a year, just learning from his business, which was decades more developed than mine. And then, it got to a decision point where, I was about a year in, and he needed me full time. And it was really tempting because it was steady pay and it was a very established business. He was a great guy, and there's years of referrals behind it. And he was probably in his early 60s or so, so I knew he wouldn't be in the business for too much longer. That was the decision moment is, okay, he somewhat put a job offer on the table, and I had to decide if I was going to go back to full-time with E36 or if I was just going to go ahead and hang it up and take the, in my mind, simpler route to go work for somebody else.
Yeah. And you decided to focus on E36.
I did. Yeah. It was a tough decision, but made a clean break. I had a great group of advisors from an organization called Iron Forums, and everybody sitting at that table was pretty unanimous in, hey, yeah, that's a great opportunity. Very cool. That's not what you've told us you want. That's not who you've told us you are. That's not what you and your wife are about. That's not the future that you want for yourself. So, we recommend, we recommend that you just take that extra 2 days a week and really dig your heels in and use everything you've learned and go full time. Yeah.
Speaking of Iron Forums, for those who may not have heard of Iron Forums, is a local faith-based CEO peer group, right?
Yep. That's it.
Meets once a month. Iron Forums is expanding. They have 4 or 5 locations around North Georgia, including one virtual forum, and they have plans to expand outside of the state of Georgia. But for those men who may be listening, who have business responsibility and who believe that they could benefit from a group of like-minded peers for advice and counsel, Iron Forums could very possibly be an outstanding opportunity for them.
Yeah. So the name of it came from the verse in Scripture that says, "So as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another."
Right.
And it was great for me because I was young. I was by far the youngest in the organization. I was probably 24 at the time. I would have to guess the mean age was 55 or so. So it was an excellent opportunity for me to sit with these guys who had been through it all and really get to learn a lot from them.
Yeah. And that has worked out well for you. And so for the first couple of years of life for E36, what was that like? I mean, because still when you're doing project work, and you started off with home remodeling and renovations, and you still do home remodeling and renovations, although you've expanded and grown, and we want to hear about that. But how did you manage that tension between needing to be available to respond to people that wanted a quote or wanted you to walk through and give them a quote, and then at the same time get the work done?
Hard work and no kids at the time. I mean, it was just a lot of hours. I was working 5 or 6 days a week, and there were a lot of days that were 15 or more hours a day. So it was a lot to juggle, and that's what got us down the road from just home repairs and light remodeling into a licensed general contractor. Is I'd find myself, I'd be demoing a bathroom, and I'd just have to stop for 30 minutes to answer the 30 texts that I had on my phone and make a bunch of phone calls and then get right back into the work. And that was one of the greatest things that I learned from that business mentor that I worked for a year, is he really taught me the value of subcontracted labor, specialization, and focusing on doing what only you can do, and then delegating out the rest. So it was a painful thing to learn, but had to learn it pretty quickly.
Right, so you've come from that to the point that now that Exodus 36 or E36 is a licensed general contractor.
Yes, sir.
And so describe your business. I know you've recently hired a project manager. You've got several people on your team now, including Brad, but describe the company as it exists today. What's your team? What do they do? The kinds of work that you do?
Yeah. So there's 5 of us now, and really it's a really cool management model that we've created. So like Garrett said, we're subcontracting labor and kind of swinging hammers, that side of things. So our team really concentrates on how do we create a great customer experience from start to finish, and then how do we help a project run on time and on budget, which is anytime you're doing anything construction or renovation, that's the biggest question. How do we not run over? And how do we not spend a bunch of money? So our team is set up that way. So I'm the front door to an extent. Anytime that somebody fills out a web form or there's an inquiry, that's coming to me first. I'm vetting, I'm meeting, going on site, giving some measurements, giving a rough estimate, and then from there we kick it to our designer. So we just hired an interior designer, really, really sharp. She's already making us better. Been featured on HGTV. The whole thing. Like she's incredible. So she's kind of taken that design process to the next level, where not only are things planned down to the T, so is the pricing model, and really the style that clients are hoping to capture is really embodied before we even create any dust, right? So which is a big thing for us. So then we have the project management side. So we've got a project coordinator who runs everything from the office, so scheduling, budgets, setting up subcontractors, ordering materials, kind of the nuts and bolts of what needs to happen for the project to go, and then a project manager that, again, makes sure it stays on time and on budget. So he's hands-on and on site managing teams every day. So
good. So at this point, it's a design build firm. It's a design build firm that does everything except new home construction, right?
Yeah, and that's something that we're looking to expand into next, because it's all the same guys. We have all the same trades, because there's still, we only do interiors, but at the same time, a lot of interiors mandate some exterior work as well.
That's right.
Change a window size, move some doors. So, yeah, we're already right there, all the same crews. We just haven't yet jumped into new homes.
Right. So you're doing everything. So you're doing major renovations, whether it's expansions, major upgrades, whatever it is, everything, kitchen, bathroom, all the above, those kinds of things. But with Caitlin as a design, that's a beautiful thing where you have a designer that can come in and sit with the homeowners. Yeah. And I'm guessing that for the most part, personal experience suggests that Mrs. Homeowner really instructs what that looks like.
Right. That's
How'd you know?
I'm an old married guy. And early in my life, I worked. I was a trim contractor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a trim contractor, and the old boy, they'd come. We did a lot of customs. Yeah. I was working with my uncle at the point. And we did a lot of custom homes, and so the homeowners would show up, and the old boy, he'd just sort of wander around and look, and he wouldn't have anything to say. And the missus, and especially if you were in the kitchen, they always knew what they wanted.
That's right. That's
There's
right.
very clear one.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Certainly, we
That's
can
At
do that.
whatever
yes,
cost.
Yeah.
And then the husband comes back in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's like y'all have daughters, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what's in your future. All right. So at some point, some years, the prayers are going to find this young man, and Prince Charming. They're going to want to get married, right? And so your role, just write checks.
That's right. That's it.
let Grace and Brycey interface with the bride. Y'all just write checks and don't say a word about the fortune that this is costing. Just write the check. Yeah. I've heard that so many times.
We're going to have to sell some more jobs here in the next couple of years that coming in.
Stay at it, brother. Stay at it, man. So, yeah. But so Caitlin comes in with the Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner and can help them envision or visualize and take their ideas and reduce them just incredible design.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And then that gives and she can do that as a standalone project, and then they can, of course, then continue to hire E36 to complete the work.
That's right.
But that gives the foundation for what the finished project is going to look like. Yeah. And then you and Chad working together build out the proposal and work with Air and the rest of the team to deliver.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, the design is really key, and Caitlin is a master at it's a dual role that she has to play in front of the client. All it looks like she's doing is just capturing some visions, brainstorming, thinking up some cool stuff, and oh yeah, this sounds great. And it's all the kind of subjective stuff with the client. But then she has to turn right around to the construction team and know code and know construction. She is well versed in that. So she takes customer facing is subjective. Hey, here's what it'll look like. This is exciting. And then turn around and objectively state to everybody else who's actually got to go execute the construction all the specifications and details. Yeah. So it's a very unique skill set that takes for that.
It is. It's almost like I've heard this. I was talking with a friend of mine one time, and he was working with a middle school robotics team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man.
And it's just you'll meet. Hopefully, you'll meet this guy soon. But at the time, his son, who's now in the Army, was in middle school and was part of the robotics team.
Okay.
All right. And so Ken was the lead dog on he was the sort of the dad because of his background and his time availability. He was the dad that was helping the robotics team. And so they had developed this really good idea and converted it to a product.
Yep.
Okay. But there's a significant, I learned this in conversations with him, there's a significant difference in engineering being able to design something and manufacturing. There's a difference between engineering and manufacturability.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly
And so
right.
it sounds like that's what it is like with Caitlin. You can have all these designs, but then you've got to turn it around and say, can we actually do this stuff?
That's right. Yep.
And are the materials available? And what's code and how's code going to impact the ultimate what this looks like, and then if there's changes that need to be made, go back and handle the relationship with the homeowner. Say, you know what, all that kind. But she's got that gift, right? That skill set. That's outstanding.
It's almost a unicorn, really, because it's tough to be a creative and to be administrative. Right?
Yeah.
That's almost two different sides of your brain.
Yeah.
So it's very impressive. Yeah.
So now I'm curious about something because many of our listeners. Okay, and I'm in this boat myself. Okay, many of our listeners own, let's call it the classic American small business with 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 employees.
Yep.
Okay, and all of us need talent, here's what I've learned about business. All right, if you and I will get up and get out of the house on a regular basis and go out and say hello to people and make yourself available and, whatever. There's just a whole marketing thing. You're good at it, and I still study it, but like, how's that work? But as long as we'll do that consistently, there are people in the marketplace that need our help, and they will find us.
That's right.
It takes, they're going to find us.
Yep.
What I study is how do we get the professional talent to help deliver as these people come to us. And what I'm watching, and I still study this, okay, there are people that want to work for a family-owned operation like your business and our business and so many others that we all know in common, right? And we serve and so on and so forth. But Caitlin came from a much larger organization. And how many employees were there from which you came from?
At least a dozen. It was 12, 15, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's but in the construction space, that's a pretty good size local firm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't really. That's about the max before you scale to another location.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so what was attractive to her about making that? Because she just joined you this summer.
She did. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty recent.
What was attractive to her about joining E36 versus staying in a larger firm?
Yeah. To be able to hire well, you have to know what your value is and know how to tell it to other people. You got to be able to set up the vision and clearly communicate that vision and tell why that vision is better than another vision. So with us, man, being young, an 8-year-old company, there's so much room for flexibility and growth. We run on entrepreneurial operating system, or EOS. So we set up, 1 year, 3 year, 10 year, these targets where we're planning on, hey, here's what we want to be. But there are so many blanks on there. You get the 3-year picture and it's like,
how do we get there?
Yeah, 3 years ago to guess at where we'd be now is impossible. Right. So that's the fun of knowing that there's not too much of a ceiling. We get to pitch to Caitlin, hey, look, this is we're a relatively new organization compared to what you're used to. She was actually at that firm she was with longer than E36 has been incorporated.
Yep. Wow.
So she had, they'd been there and done that. And we got to say to her, like, hey, you can continue on just, coming in and doing what you've been used to doing, or you can come help us build something. We want to invite you to be part of the leadership team to really take us to the next level and teach us how to get where you've been. And then with design, if you want to stay the lead designer, cool. There's certainly an opportunity for that. If you want to lead a design team and help us build out this second organization within this organization, awesome. That's what we'd really love to have you do. So it gives her an open doorway.
So you were able to open the door of opportunity to her, and in her particular situation, that was something that she was interested in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Something you said there, that was very well put. So say that again. You said that in recruiting talent, you need to be able to share
you need to be able to understand your own vision and then clearly communicate it, and then tell other people why that is a better vision than what they're currently on track to achieve.
Yeah, and it might not even be just, hey, why is it better? But hey, why does it fit your life path better than another one? It's not like, hey, this one's obviously better and this one's negative. It's, hey, what's your vision for your life, and does this fit into that? And I think that was some of Caitlin. She's got 2 young kids, and they're both in school, and like that's the season of life for her. So for her transitioning in with us, man, there's a connect from a life stage that just made more sense.
Right.
And I think that's important, because that's a little bit of how we operate. Like, hey, we want to build a great business, but we also want to be great husbands, and we want to stay connected to our kids. And
the broader umbrella of culture. Yeah, we really got to explain to her, here's what our culture is.
That's right.
And with that, there's a long vetting process too. It's not like we got Caitlin's name, we got her, application, and we called her, and after a phone call, we said, come on board. No, it was like a months-long courting process. Yeah. So we really had to figure out, do her values align with our values? That's the crux of it. So what you want in a culture, what you value, is that what we have? And we could see it very clearly. So then we just had to, communicate that.
So there was that. So it sounds like a key part of that vetting and the vetting process in the conversations with her was affirming that, first of all, articulating your values, which means you know what they are.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
And then going through a process of confirming that her values aligned with your corporate values. And back to what you said, because based the fact that she has young children says that the two of you and Caitlin, and I've met Aaron on your team, so all of you are roughly in the same point in your life cycle. You have young children home, and
that's right.
Chad's the same. Your other guy Chad's in the same spot.
Yeah, they're working on a family, so hoping to have their first baby soon.
All right.
They're working on it. Yeah.
Cool, good. So all of you are right there, and so those kinds of things, making sure that each of you are available to be moms and dads and husbands and wives, those kinds of things is just part of how you've embraced. It's part of what you've articulated as a.
Yeah, I do think it's important for us to distinguish some of the stuff that we're talking about is what's called occidental values. So these are things that, yes, we are young families, yes, we have kids, but we don't want that to be the defining factors to where if we're trying to recruit somebody who isn't married, doesn't have kids, isn't our age, it doesn't mean they're excluded.
Right.
It just happens to be some linked commonalities. And then our cultural values, our core values, those align well with that kind of life.
Yes. And I can tell you from experience that there's such incredible value in identifying your core values, number one.
Yeah. And
number two is screening and filtering, in particular, your team by those values.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, and like you talk, we as well have been through EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, and yes, we have a very particular 1-year plan, 3-year picture, 10-year vision.
Yep.
I have no idea how we're going to get there, but that doesn't matter. At least it's in writing, and we're moving forward.
It's the traction side of the VTO.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It is. You know, there are any number of good frameworks to build your operations around, and almost all of them are built around where do you want to be in 10 years and what do we do in the next 90 days to get there, right? Yep. And so there's great value in that business process. So, Brad, you came on January of 21, so almost 2 years ago now.
That's right.
Okay, so what was going on, Garrett, with you at the point you reached out to Brad and said, "Hey, let's work together. Come help me. Let's do this thing."
Yeah, it was neat. It aligned well for both of us. I was kind of at a stretched point where I had maximized my time yet again, and that's kind of, that's when the business tends to grow. Is when you hit a ton of tension, you can either give up, shrink, or push through and grow. So I'd gotten to the point where I was selling jobs, but also still helping on the management team, which is the same boat I found myself in years before when I made my first hire. So I had really reached my maximum potential. And then I also knew that my personality, again, I'm pretty dry, pretty detailed. I can convince a customer to trust us, but I'm not always the guy who's going to connect on an emotional level the best as a salesperson. So it was clearly identified through one of our EOS quarterlies that, I'm the salesman now, and I can do it as long as I need to, but that's going to be our ceiling at some point. So I left a quarterly meeting with a rock to recruit a sales rep over the next 90 days. And at the same time, Brad and I were talking, and he felt like he was in a position where he loved doing full-time vocational ministry. And I'll let you tell more of it, but kind of realize, like, I love business so much. I feel like there's this untapped side of my soul that has got to be expressed. And as long as I'm doing what I'm doing right now, I'm going to have this yearning for some other way to express ministry in the marketplace.
Cool. And so you were at a point that it was time to go. It was time to make a change.
Yeah. No, and it was a great experience. So much of who I am was developed through that season, and God had us there. And Bryce and I, our marriage was formed through some of that. But yeah, Garrett said it well. It was something that God put in me, I think, to engage in business. And it really, I think it's a way that God is glorified, because I wasn't the guy that was good at school, and I didn't pay attention, right? So it wasn't like I had this raw talent, but it's more of a hustle, more of a grit that just like, man, let me learn, let me try to figure that out. I want to engage in that, and so there's so much I talk to my wife about this all the time. I get paid to learn something that I love to learn about every day, right? Every day that Garrett and I, do something new, it's new territory, right? We've never hired a designer before. We've never hired a project coordinator before. We've never done this size project before, right? It's new territory every day, which is so exciting and so cool. And God is kind enough to let us figure out most of it and learn the rest on the way. So yeah, it's been a great thing. And to see God's, faithfulness and blessing over that, decision has been so good as well. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So, let me ask you each individually, just, if there are 2 or 3 things that you've learned about, running a business, or about running a business with a family, or about running a business with a friend. Just 2 or 3 takeaways. We're about to wrap up here, but before we wrap up, I want to hear from you guys. Share with us what you've learned. Somebody needs to hear this.
Gosh, the most paramount thing that sticks out in my mind is God is faithful, and that's been a challenge to learn. And I would say God almost gave me no option whether I wanted to learn it or not, because as a business grows, like, there are seasons to it, there are hardships to it, there are great seasons, there are the dark valleys. And early on, I almost tended to be on the fight or flight scale. I tended to be more flight, and it's just always like, oh, it's getting too hard. Is this the day? Is this the day? And it was almost like I was looking for, when is this going to fail? When am I not going to be able to overcome the next challenge? But praise God for His faithfulness, His goodness, giving me an excellent wife, giving me great men around me, especially through Iron Forums and sitting and talking with you, who were really able to just encourage me and say, like, hey, look, there's hardships in life, any route you go. Like, business hardships are one thing. There's all sorts of hardships, though. Like, you just need to lean in on what God has called you to do. Don't get freaked out by the circumstances. Like, just continue to trust in God, and He's going to provide. So that's been, the most important thing for me is God is a good Father. He's a provider. And then another would be, you can't do everything yourself. And it's not always just delegation. It's also, I'm not always the best person to encourage myself that day. I'm not the one to give me the best advice every day. But also, again, I wasn't the best sales rep. It wasn't my position to be in forever. I wasn't the best at project coordination. There's all these roles that I've had to get out of, because I have to recognize that I'm not the best at everything. And even if I was the best at everything, I wouldn't be able to do everything. So we've got to rely on each other as a team, and work hard collectively towards the same goals.
Yeah, that's good.
2 or 3 things from you, Brad?
Yeah. I think the reality of trust is so huge on a team. I forget who wrote it. If I was better with my memory, I'd know his name. But there's a book called The Speed of Trust that just talks about the reality of, hey, you can only go as fast as deep as you trust, which is so real, right? The more, and I see it in myself, the more disconnected I get from the team, or get from subcontractors, or even customers, the more stories I can tell myself, right? I can fill in blanks for somebody else that may or may not be true, but the deeper that I dive in relationship, the more that I see the clear picture, and then I can make decisions based on what is actually happening. So diving in deep to relationship and really having tough conversations where it's like, well, be honest with me, tell me the truth. Let's have a real conversation. That's a huge piece. Yeah. So Stephen Covey, thank you for that. So yeah, that would be my first piece, speed of trust. And then I think just being okay with learning every day, right? I think for me at least, and I think most men, it is really easy to let my business be my identity. So anytime that I mess something up, it's me personally messing up. Or if the business isn't exceeding or progressing as quick as I want it, it's me personally missing something, or not doing something, or not living up. And the reality is that's not true. Right. Just like it's not true on the other side. When things are great and we're closing jobs and we have great quarters and sales are coming in and projects are running smooth, it's not because I'm a genius, right? Like there's a reality to God's kindness and God's grace. And then there's a reality of, hey, I'm going to learn something new every single day, and I'm going to make mistakes every single day. Let's try not to make the same ones twice.
Right.
But man, I'm going to be open to learning new. I'm going to be open to not having all the answers, similar to what Garrett said. So that's a tough piece. I don't know how to have it figured out, but that's definitely, it's real. So
good. Thank you both for sharing. Let me see if I can summarize what I've just heard. Number one, internalize the fact that God is faithful. Always. Yes. Philippians 4:19 says, "My God shall supply all of your needs." And here's what's interesting. That's not limited to just physical needs.
That's right.
Any physical, relational, emotional, spiritual, whatever needs we happen to have, God has already made all provision for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So internalize the fact that God's faithful and has made all provision.
Yeah.
Okay. Do not allow this. This has taken me personally a long time to learn. Do not allow business outcomes to don't get my identity wrapped up in business outcomes. Yeah. It's an easy thing to embrace. American culture rewards that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But it messes with you. Okay, so de-link from that. Be a person outside of whatever's going on in business.
Yeah.
Give your gifts, and serve others with your gifts. Things like this, but don't get your identity tied up in that. Remember that we are in fact exactly who God says we are, and that is we are His sons and His daughters. He's preparing us to be kings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what I heard you say was to always choose to always learn. Be curious, be willing to learn and grow, and don't be afraid of the growth and change that comes with that learning.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
God is faithful. Be clear on your identity.
Yep.
And always learn.
Yeah.
Good. Those are keepers. Those are keepers. Guys, thank you. We're going to wrap this up, but thank you so much for joining us here for these episodes. I appreciate you both so much. It's an honor and privilege to know you. Thanks for making time to share your life and your experiences with our listeners. And
thanks, Randy.
And to the rest of you that are listening to us today, thank you for joining us. Thanks for listening. And while we have this conversation with Garrett and with Brad, one more thing. If someone wants to reach out to you guys, what's the best way for them to find you? How can they find you if they want to have a conversation with you about getting your help?
Yeah, e36creations.com. Yeah, you can fill out a web form there. Come straight to me. Got our cell phone number on there as well.
Facebook, right, Instagram.
Yeah, the whole nine.
All right, good. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and for all you listeners, appreciate it. If you need to reach out to us, just have questions, those kind of things, you know where to find us, centurionag.com or info@centurionag.com. So thanks again, and this is Randy Brunson with Centurion Advisor Group, wrapping up this episode of Stewarding Family Wealth.